It's Friday. Welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki. Alongside who we have is our wonderful, talented Ag Director, Bridgette Readel. Good afternoon, Bridgette. It's Friday.
It is a big Friday.
Finally.
It's a good day. Good day. Weather looks nice out there. Not much for wind. I think I can safely say that a big chunk of harvest is done. There's a few things left, but it's really been rolling right along quite nicely.
Bring on some much-needed rain. I'll tell you what, we're starting to see signs now of a pattern change. Not sure how long this is going to last. Let's hope it lasts a couple weeks at least as we transition into next week and end of the month into the first part of November. We're going to start seeing a more active cycle in terms of weather. Now, whether that means we get the rain or it stays to our south is a big question. Right now, most of our models are favoring areas down in South Dakota, over through southern Minnesota, down into Iowa for a good widespread 1 to 1.5 inches of rain, which is great news because they're under drought conditions to our south as well. But it sure would be nice.
But
it'd be nice if we could get that north.
Just heard you dash the hopes and dreams of so many listening that we're counting on an inch of rain, Dean.
I wish we could. We need about a good 1 to 2 inch soaking to just alleviate a lot of the problems that we have around here. I don't see that happening. Some areas yesterday out in Lakes Country picked up close to a half inch out around DL.
Nice.
While we picked up just 500s here. I think I saw Rutland checked in with about a third of an inch. So a lot of it was to our south and southeast into Lakes countries. And boy, I hope that's not the pattern that's setting up for the rest of the winter, because usually you get what we call anchor troughs, and that same storm track continues through the winter time. And let's hope that's not the case this winter. But at least we've got the storms that are coming close to the area, so that's good news there. We've just got to get more moisture pulled up into our area. But it does look like some rain is in the forecast, but I'll tell you what, we're not looking at it as we head into the upcoming weekend. We're looking at sunny skies currently with temperatures in the low to mid-50s across the area. We'll make it up a few more degrees into the upper 50s with winds out of the northwest at about 10 to 20 and a little gusty at times. Down back below freezing, so another frosty night tonight with lows in the upper 20s and light winds. And then the winds pick up out of the south over the weekend at about 10 to 25. Highs in the upper 50s Saturday, mid to upper 60s Sunday. And then it looks like by Monday, we should have highs close to 70. And then our next chance of rain comes in Tuesday night into Wednesday, and another possible storm that following weekend. But for the trick-or-treaters on Thanksgiving, on Halloween, it does look dry for the kiddos going and the adults going out. It looks like it'll be dry.
Every kid who spent extra money on a costume this year just heard they get to go twice, Halloween and Thanksgiving.
Yeah, right.
So they are all in for how often they can wear those costumes. They're happy.
Jumping the holidays just a little bit here.
A little bit.
And I've had quite a few emails about when are we having our LRC special with the winter outlook, and we have that slated for the 27th of November. That'll be on the Jay Thomas Show. There's a chance that the cycle might not be set by then, but we will have a very firm kind of grasp on what to expect for the upcoming winter and spring, even if the cycle isn't set. So that should be entertaining, to say the least. I'm a little nervous, to be honest with you, if we don't start. Gary said the same thing. He's like, I don't know if I want to come on air if we're still in these conditions right now. He goes, I might get daggers thrown at me. I'm like, no, you're just going to have a lot of in the ag community that are well informed about what to expect for the spring and into the summer.
But look, you two have been meteorologists for a number of years. It's not your first time taking hate mail, so have at it. It'll be fine. People will let you know what they think. It'll be okay.
And Don't worry about it. It won't be the last time either. It won't be the last time.
No, it will not.
Also, there was an article that was printed. It was a local local write-up about how the National Weather Service out at Grand Forks is they have developed an experimental weather model which goes out for 6 months. Kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? So they,
Shocking.
they developed this experimental weather model that goes out 6 months, and they are forecasting anywhere between, I believe it was 2 to 10 storms this upcoming winter season. That's kind of a wide spread, but I'm working on trying to get somebody from the National Weather Service on with us to explain kind of how this model works. Why is it experimental?
Okay.
And how accurate is it? If it's experimental, they probably don't have enough stats on it yet to see how accurate it is. But
Sure.
working on getting somebody from the National Weather Service on with us because, again, it's the only one. I believe, I could be mistaken, but I believe they're the only office that has developed this model. So it'll be interesting to see what that all entails.
And the fact that it's the one out of Grand Forks, interesting. Okay,
Right.
well, let's see what that says.
Yeah, and a lot of it's for winter. It keys on winter forecasting. So I think that's probably why they were given the task of working on this experimental model. So it'll be, like I said, curious to see what's behind it. Obviously, it's a physics-based model, but does it go after the European? Does it piggyback off of that? I believe it's an AI experimental model from what I've read. So, and that's going to be kind of the trend over the next few years. We've already the European model has an AI run each day that they do. So I've noticed it's a little aggressive on precip. The AI model is, and that's the last thing we need to hear. So, but again, it's experimental, so we'll kind of see how it goes. You can always fine tune those models as well.
So just here comes snarky me. Wow, AI. Is this the point where we're going to talk about how the weather's modified and controlled by antennas under the ocean, et cetera, et cetera? Because
well, and you forgot, you forgot the laser beams on the space station too. That modify that model. You forgot that part. And the and the chemtrails.
It's Friday. I can't even go that far to acknowledge those things. I just cannot.
Did you see? I will have to send you the article, Bridgette. The National Weather Service, the main branch, had to put out an article. I'm kidding. I'm not kidding on this. I thought it was a spoof article, but it was real. They had to put out a national article, a press release, debunking all these weather modifications. We can't modify hurricanes. Is there cloud seeding? Yes, there is, but there's no way we can modify the weather in terms of that. All the stuff that was going on social media over these last two hurricanes. And it's sad that we've gotten to the point where the National Weather Service has to put out a press release debunking all these myths. Now, I know there's still some people probably saying, well, it is true and you're just not reading up enough on it. Sorry.
I would just point out that the reason we didn't worry about these things 100 years ago is we were all trying to survive. We were all still having to work very hard during the day in order to have food, fiber, shelter at the end of the day. Apparently, we don't have enough to do if these are the things we want to worry about the most.
Well, it's social media. I mean, we didn't have that to worry about either 25 years ago, really. So
we didn't.
It's got its pluses and it's got its minuses, but like I said, it's pretty sad that they had to come out and have a press release on that. But again, it doesn't surprise me either.
Well, again, we're not weather and weird. We're weather and ag. So we'll talk about some ag things today. How's that?
I like that. And okay. our special guest today has something to do with ag as well.
Absolutely. We're going to have Tamara Heins with us. She is the executive director for the North Dakota pork producers. And some folks are going to say, we have a pork producers? Because we don't overall have a lot of hogs in the state of North Dakota, but they do exist. And I think there's an opportunity for us to see more over the next few years. So I'm excited to talk to Tamara about that. Plus, it's Porktober. We should be celebrating all things ham, bacon, pork chops, and otherwise, as well as it is National Pasta Month. Another thing that we can celebrate here in North Dakota, because we are indeed the largest state that produces, or we are the largest durum producing state, is how I need to say that. Durum is one of our wheat varieties that we raise specifically for pasta production. We produce enough in this state to have 1.7 billion boxes of pasta. We have processing facilities like Minot, Dakota Growers in Carrington, and also the North Dakota Mill and Elevator in Grand Forks. There are great ways to celebrate pasta. Feel free to have some spaghetti tonight if you'd like. But above all, we not only love it here in this country, but we export our durum bushels to Algeria, Italy, Morocco, and Venezuela.
Mm, can't beat that.
I
Pasta.
don't think so.
A little pasta
We've got
and
great
pork,
pasta products here.
pasta and pork chop sounds good for dinner tonight, doesn't it?
I don't, you know what? Even if you wanted to make like the macaroni salad with the chunks of ham in it, go for it.
Oh,
Use those
that'd
things.
be good too. That'd be
Yes.
good too. So, well,
Yes.
we've got to check in on American Ag Network. But when we come
Yes.
back, we will come back with Tamara again from the North Dakota Pork Producers. We'll be talking to Tamara. If you have any questions for us or for Tamara, give us a call 701-293-9000. Again, that's a Red Wing Shoe hotline at 701-293-9000. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Thanks for joining us on this glorious Friday afternoon here on Weather and Ag in Focus. Thrilled to have you listening wherever you might be. Might be in the shop working on some equipment, might be on a parts run, might be picking up groceries. Whatever that is, enjoy your Friday afternoon. And above all, a thank you to our Here We Grow sponsors. Our custom farming 20 acres of corn went great north of Glendon, Minnesota. Profits are going to be headed to farm rescue. We want to designate those dollars to the Wildlife Relief Fund out in western North Dakota. We want to make sure that our producers there get the supplies that they need, whether it be fencing, hay, and so much more to take care of their cattle as well as their ground. And some of those sponsors for our Here We Grow project were Pivot Bio and Fultz Buildings. Pivot made sure we were taken care of on our nitrogen source this year, and Fultz Buildings, well, if you're planning on doing any additional building, whether it's a lake cabin, a home, a shop, give them a call. They want to make your dreams come true. We have a guest joining us today that we are very excited about, and that is Tamara Heins. She is with the North Dakota Pork Producers. Tamara, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I can't complain about the weather, so I'm doing great.
So, Tamara, give us a little bit of background. Where are you? You must obviously be raising pork as well, and tell us about the association.
So, the North Dakota Pork Council is a membership organization that we work in outreach and promotion and basically serve as the arm of the members and the pig farmers of North Dakota. So, I'm located in New Salem, North Dakota. We have actually, ironically enough, home of the world famous largest Holstein cow, but we also are headquarters for the North Dakota Pork Council.
Okay, when we think about North Dakota livestock production, people automatically think of beef and certainly that great big dairy cow that could be looking over your shoulder there at New Salem. But pork isn't the first thing. How big is our pork industry in the state?
Well, our pork industry in the state is relatively small, considered, especially compared to the beef industry. Um, the thing about we have a big history in pork production in North Dakota, though, but it kind of stems back from when seed stock producers were kind of all over the state back in the day when everyone had a few pigs. We had a really large industry that raised seed stock for other farmers. And when we saw in the 90s when the price fell out of the pork industry with pennies a pound, and a lot of people exited the business. And then when Cloverdale shut down their processing facility in Minot, that was kind of the end of the pig business anywhere west of the Missouri River. And so we've seen some growth in some areas out in the east and the southeastern part of the state because the pig industry is not unlike many other industries where freight is kind of the limiting cost. So being far away from a processing plant makes it really difficult to finish pigs anywhere except in the eastern part of the state, or especially the southeastern part of the state is probably the most is where we see the most activity because they are closer to Austin, Minnesota, and to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where we have our closest processing plants.
So this maybe is a little bit of a chicken or the egg, but we're going to do it with pork. Which comes first, more pigs to produce or more processing in the state? Because you kind of need them to grow together to make this work, right? For growth in the industry.
Right. Well, and we have seen that question being asked in several industries in North Dakota over the years because we are so far away from processing because we're far away from population centers. So that is kind of a limiting factor for us. So I don't know the answer to that. I think the way the industry is set up in North Dakota, we're kind of have evolved into being considered a sow state, which would be like we raise the piglets here to fair. Most of our operations are fairing operations, and then we ship ISO weans closer to where the finishing is and closer to those processing facilities because we can ship so many more small pigs on a semi tractor trailer than we can finished pigs. So that's kind of where we've kind of evolved into that, and we've also evolved into like herd because of our good biosecurity, because we have such low pig density and low people density, that we've come kind of a developer of seed stock once again, and nucleus herds, we call them, where we're raising high quality, high health seed stock for other operations. So I think there's still, and even without processing in North Dakota, we've been able to find kind of our niche, and that's not uncommon. Other states like Oklahoma doesn't have any processing in their state, and they're primarily a sow state, and almost all their pigs that are produced in Oklahoma are sent to other states to be processed.
So we need to do a little bit of education for those who are listening that probably aren't even familiar with some of the terms. And honestly, as someone who grew up in beef
Sure.
and dairy, I always have to stop and think, okay, you said some things here that folks are going to ask questions about. Isoweans, farrowing, farrow to finish, nucleus herd. Can we start to describe some of those things, Tamara, so we're all speaking the same
You bet.
language?
Like all industries, we have way too many acronyms. I've been to meetings where I've written acronyms. I went home to Google them because I had no idea what we were talking about. So I apologize if I was speaking over. But so a farrow to finish operation is typically what we see in our history, is what we saw. People farrowed out their pigs, so the piglets were born on that farm. They were moved into a nursery on that same farm, and then they were finished in a finishing barn on that same farm. So in North Dakota, typically, especially our larger operations, they're called or farrowing operations, and they sell isoweans, which the term isoween means a newly weaned pig. So a pig that they wean the pigs from their moms, put them on the trailer, and then they go to the next barn, the next farm that has nursery barns, and then probably finishing barns on the same facility. So
Okay.
which other
Well,
one did I need to explain?
the nucleus herds. That was another one,
So
and that's not a term I've heard
right,
very often.
right, and I think that term is probably kind of specific to the swine industry, not really to the livestock industry. So nucleus herds are just where these herds are raised primarily for um, restocking. So they're raising breeding gilts for other farms. So, and a lot of times, though, the barrows or the males that are born in those operations are finished and processed, but the gilts are raised primarily for, and so different genetic lines are selected because those gilts are raised primarily for seeds to repopulate after sows, their lifespan's over, and then they need to have new genetics and new animals. And there's some herds that are just specifically that's what they do, is raise breeding stock for other farms.
Okay. Now, one question that I think is important to the state right now is the fact that we had some hurdles before in our confinement operation law, our corporate farming law, et cetera, that made it more difficult to have larger hog operations. That's been helped at the state legislature level in the last year. How does it help pork producers kind of overcome that hurdle and maybe be able to gain some traction in larger herds?
So I think the biggest thing that the change in the law that we'll be able to see is that, because of, like I mentioned before, that we have such high health standards here, because we don't have as many pigs, our population isn't as dense as, like, say, the middle of Iowa or southern Iowa. So people are looking for breeding stock and for finishing stock coming from our area, because they are less likely to have been affected by any diseases, because we just have less pigs, less people going in and out of pig places. So we have a little bit better atmosphere to raise those pigs. When we have had some swine diseases in the past, like PED, that porcine endemic virus, that they were
Mm-hmm.
finding the virus was they were finding the viruses on the floors of gas stations in Iowa. So it was almost
Oh,
impossible to keep that in check, because the virus was able to live um, under very differing circumstances. So it's pretty hard to stop it. So there was, like, people were going into gas stations, and then workers were coming out and going into their farms. And even if they had decent herd health biosecurity, they might not have had the best biosecurity, and they were seeing it move around so fast. And that's part of the reason why, like, farms in Iowa and Minnesota and South Dakota even are looking to North Dakota to put their breeding stock herd, or to
mm-hmm.
raise these baby pigs, because we just have less incidence of disease. And the PRRS issue has been a really hard issue for our farmers all over the United States. That's a respiratory virus that really has, we do have vaccines, they're not very effective. And it's these people that break out with PRRS, a lot of times they just decide to um, go through that cycle, and then they start repopulating their barns, and they just do everything they can to keep it out. And we have a less incidents of that because we just have a lot less people working in those kind of facilities here. But I think the corporate farming law,
Absolutely.
the big change you'll see is that we'll be able to expand not only from other farms that want to come here and build new farms, but also like farmers within the state that want to expand. Like and the farm before the law made them had to be related, and now if we have two neighbors that want to work together, or if we have cousins or second cousins or friends from college that want to get involved in building a barn and things like that. I mean, now we have a few more opportunities because it's just highly intensive capital. The buildings are super expensive, and you have to have some
Yeah.
sort of, capital built into that to be able to do that. I just heard a number the other day, 8,000 sow farm that's going up in, oh, I don't remember exactly where, in Iowa, I believe, maybe in Nebraska. $30 million. That's a lot of money. so,
Holy cow.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Uh,
and we haven't seen a lot of growth since the law has been changed, but that's primarily because right now the economics are not really in the favor. The swine
mhm.
industry isn't in an expansion phase right now. And the great thing about the swine industry is that things change rather quickly. So we will be, and when we are again, we're going to be ready to have more opportunities for everyone that might be interested in raising pigs in North Dakota. So
Well, there's no doubt we want to see more bacon seeds available for everybody, and that's just some piglets. So, okay, we do want to stop and take care of bottom of the hour news, Tamara. But when we come back, we've got some listener questions for you that have been sent in to us, and we're going to run through those when we return. So stay tuned. We'll have more headlines and weather as well. Welcome back to Weather and Egg in Focus. And I just heard the commercial play for Bottle Barn Liquors, which reminds me that if you guys want to make sure to check out North Dakota Sweet Crude, it is a fabulous fall drink. Maybe you're going to be sharing with some friends during tailgating, football games. You might be relaxing after hunting season. And don't forget that tomorrow you're going to be able to go to Happy Harry's on 45th Street in Fargo. They have tasting of crude, North Dakota Sweet Crude from 4 to 7. And if you're wondering, what am I going to drink that with? Besides just sip it, you can go to crudespirits.com for more ideas for recipes. So always look for something fun to have, and especially North Dakota grown. So, Dean, I think we've got some email questions that have come in. Do you want to start running down those?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Tamara, we've got one email question asking if pork demand is increasing globally or nationally, or is it decreasing? I mean, I know you said earlier, obviously, when the Cloverdale plant in Minot closed, that kind of, put a kibosh on it up here in North Dakota. But what about globally or nationally?
So you know that pork is like the number one meat protein in the world. So we rely heavily on exports. In fact, they're about 30% of our market is exported around the world. And we have a very good trade relationships with both Mexico and Canada. Because oddly enough, this will be hard for you to believe, but we rely on Mexico and Canada to use up ham. For some reason, I
Huh.
know we eat a lot of deli ham and we eat a lot of ham on occasions, but for some reason, I think that's hard for a North Dakota girl that has German roots to think that people don't
Yeah.
eat ham all the time. But
I
apparently
got a
they
ham in
don't.
the fridge, Tamara.
There you go. Good job. So, and we have seen, so what actually we've just, the National Pork Board has uh, allocated about $20 million for us to work on domestic demand because we have seen pork drop off with the next generations that are coming up. I saw a graphic where they compared the baby boomers to the millennials to the Gen Zs, and we have a dramatic drop off in pork. And I think we need to do some work in getting pork back on the menu for a lot of people because it's price conscious. I think it's a good choice as far as price goes. And but I think people maybe don't know how to cook it, and we're going to work on trying to get some education out there and just doing some more thing and looking at pork as an ingredient, like pork and pasta, like having pork and Alfredo, and you're talking about pasta month. It's pasta month, and like we just had smoked pork chops and macaroni and cheese on our menu this week. So we're seeing some things where I think like demand is kind of leveled off domestically, and then we of course seen with things because of the that China's not buying our pork like they were for a while. So we've kind of seen maybe demand fall off a little bit, but that's why we're working hard on domestic demand. And also, with the threat of foreign animal disease like African swine fever, and that would close down our export markets right away. We just need to build up our domestic demand more because we need our farmers to be able to sleep a little bit easier at night, not having to worry about something that they quite frankly have very little control over happening. So we're working really hard on building that domestic demand. But I'd say the short answer has gone down. And we've seen that our farmers are not making the money, are not making profit, haven't been profitable for a little while. So we've seen that for sure. So hopefully that'll change around. So because everyone's talking about protein, no better way to get your protein than having pork.
Well, and Tamara, that's a very good point because I know when we were brought up, it was kind of like, it's real fatty, and I think that just goes to bacon. But it's one of the leanest meats out there. Why do you think? What's the reasoning? You said each generation, it's the production or the consumption of pork has gone down. Why do you think that is? Is it just not getting out enough good information via social media, or not enough advertising? What do you contribute to that?
Boy, I sure wish I had the answer to that because I've asked a lot of very smart people the same question. Because I feel like Gen X, I feel like Gen Zers and millennials. I feel like they're way more adventurous eaters than a Gen X or a baby boomer eater. Like they're into
Mm-hmm.
more cultural foods and like the Chinese, Asian foods, and they rely so much on pork. And our Latino foods, and a lot of Mexico and the Mexican influence of Spanish foods, so much on pork, but yet we're seeing such a dramatic drop off in pork consumption in younger people. But it is, and I hear it all the time because I'm a football mom, wrestling mom. When wrestling rolls around, everybody's like, "Oh, it's chicken breast and broccoli for us now until wrestling goes." And I'm like, well, I raised a heavyweight wrestler, so I didn't have to worry about that stuff. But I'm like, hey, let's substitute some pork loin or a pork chop in, like especially pork loin
Yeah.
and chicken breast. They're like interchangeable when it comes to protein and fat and nutrients. They're like very interchangeable. So if you cook something that, are you tired of having chicken? Let's throw some pork in there and mix it up a little bit. So, but I wish I
with
knew
the
the
love
answer
of
to
the
that.
carnivore.
Yeah,
With
right.
that love of the
I'm actually
carnivore diet, you would think it's going to really grow tremendously for you, because I see that all the time that folks are looking to add lean proteins like you're talking about.
for some reason pork is absent from the discussion, and I've actually requested menus and ideas because right I'm always been looking for better ways to eat healthier while still supporting the barley producers in North Dakota. So I I look for these protein things, and I never see pork on the list. It's always lean beef, chicken,
Hmm.
fish, and I'm like, where's the pork? So I don't know, maybe that should be our tagline. Where's pork? I don't know, but I'm actually sitting on a national task force that's working on that very thing. So hopefully we'll have more answers. But we don't have pork as the center of the plate. I think people don't
Well,
sit down and think about let's have pork chops and green beans with mashed potatoes.
I think
I think
Ah,
that's just a different way of
I,
eating.
I think Tamara's onto something. So, I mean, Bridgette, I know
yeah.
you'll get this. The old Wendy's commercial back in the 80s.
Hmm.
Yeah, where's the beef? So we got to do where's the pork? And let's see. We're going to have to get a character or something to start this campaign up.
Well, pork
So
is
we
the
think
other white
pork is
meat, and it's so good.
well, see, we don't want. Well, see, no, we don't. That is unbelievable how that. And at the time, in the '80s, when that was that's when all the data came out that red meat was bad, cholesterol, butter, we were supposed to no eggs, like all that information was coming out. Then you wanted to be like chicken to sell more pork. Well, the problem is though, is that still carries us around today. That the other white meat, it was a phenomenal tagline. It still ranks like in the top, I think in the top 5 of most
Ah,
recognizable taglines, but it didn't do anything to help us sell any pork.
Hmm.
oh,
So
that's terrible.
but it is very recognizable. But so we'd like to have something that we don't want to be the other white meat. We want to be the perfect protein. It's perfect,
Yeah.
perfectly healthy, perfectly, and it takes on so many different flavors. So I was listening to you guys on the weather forecast. I'm like, it's just going to be great out this weekend. Let's keep those smokers running. Do some pulled pork. Throw some in the freezer.
Ah.
Throw some
Hmm.
in the
Uh,
freezer when you come home from those basketball games and hockey matches or whatever it might be, and you need a quick and easy meal. And there you go, pulled pork sandwich, and it
mm.
tastes just like summer. So get your smoker going this
I
weekend.
absolutely. So I do have a question. I see more folks that are trying to do like a farm direct to consumer route with their pork, and there's a fair amount of pasture pork that gets raised around me. And I realize they're not large numbers, but are you seeing an
Right.
increase as a state association in more pasture pork versus like confinement animals?
No, I mean, I would say we saw absolutely after COVID, we certainly saw a big uptake in people who are selling direct to the consumer. But yeah, I mean, there's probably more than there was 5 years ago for sure. Um, but I also think we have a few more, large scale operations than we had 5 to 10 years ago as well. But I certainly think it's great. I mean, I think because we raise our own pork that's in our freezer, and we certainly enjoy being able to go in the freezer and getting out whatever we want, when the time allows. But sometimes, farmers market, you have to work hard if you want to build that relationship with a farmer to keep your freezer stocked all year round. But yeah, I mean, I think that's awesome. I really honestly believe, in my opinion, the world would be a better place if everybody had a pig and a cow to take care of, but that's just not reality. So
And Tamara, we got another email question from one of our listeners asking, would the new soybean processing plant help attract more pork production in North Dakota?
And we have 2 plants now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the soybean growers of North Dakota would really, really love it if we had more pig farms. So and they, we've working with the North Dakota Livestock Alliance and the soybean growers and the soybean council and the corn growers and the corn utilization council. I mean, we've obviously had a very synergistic relationship for years, and it's kind of escalated with these soybean processing plants. We certainly could do more. I mean, we could feed a lot of pigs. I attend national meetings, and when I say that Cass County is the number one soybean producing county in the United States, they all look at me like I
Mhm.
have, like, that can't be true, but it is. And we didn't, until recently, we didn't have a processing facility, and now we do. And hopefully that'll bring more livestock development, not only pigs, but hopefully the dairy industry is seeing the available feed sources we have, and also beef cattle industry. Maybe we can have more finishing, more backgrounding. It's one of those historically too. Like when you look back, like we weren't always a corn and soybean state. That was always,
That's right.
the corn and soybean, that corn and soybean belt has shifted west, has shifted north. And 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the only people who raised corn and soybeans, they lived in the Red River Valley. We didn't have, we finished pigs on barley. So I mean, things
Yeah.
have so changed. The genetics and the crop business has changed it. So all of a sudden we raise, corn and beans just like Iowa and Minnesota and South Dakota. So I mean, especially in the eastern half of our state. Well, I even have soybeans around me in western North Dakota. So I mean, it's changed so much, and then now we got to figure out how we're going to use that. So hopefully that will bring this culture of finishing out pigs and diversifying farm operations that maybe haven't had livestock on them for years, or bringing in new operations. We got to find something for these animal science graduates from NDSU. We got to find them jobs in North Dakota if we want them to stay here.
We really do, because we would love to see our state population continue to increase. So, Tamara, last question before we finish out today. And that is, I'm going to take a stab at it. Were you a 4 H member growing up?
I was, but I
So
didn't
it's
wear the
also
blue jacket
national.
because I
Oh,
went to this school so small that we didn't have FFA. They do have FA now
now,
at my alma mater, but we didn't have FFA growing up. So we relied
and
heavily on 4-H.
and even though it's National FFA convention this week, it is National 4-H month. And so my
Yes.
question to you is going to be, what was one of those favorite 4-H memories? Because again, it's National 4-H month.
Oh, I don't know. You should have prepped me for that question. I guess that's some thought. My family, I grew up in the cattle business and the registered seed stock business, and my brother and I showed cattle actually, all over North Dakota. And 4-H is how we got started. Our 4-H leader, he knew how to clip and fit and show and groom and do all the things, and he drug us along to all sorts of fairs and expositions in the upper Midwest, and we just, I don't know if I have a favorite memory. If I could pick out just one memory, I can remember. But yeah, absolutely important, and I've just met really so many great people, and we're from a small state and even a smaller industry, so like, if we don't know you, we probably know your mom's friend or a cousin or whatever.
Yep.
I mean, it's a very small world. So I don't know my favorite. I don't know if I could have one favorite 4-H memory. I know I can tell you my brother and I. This is way back. I don't even. My mom. We were a big 4-H family. My mom was a leader. Her mom was a leader. I was in 3 different 4-H clubs. I was in a home ec, traditionally home ec style club where we learned how to bake bread and sew. And my mother's a master seamstress. I assure you, I have ripped out more sewing seams than anybody in North Dakota. Um, so my mom decided that my brother and I should learn how to fit these show cattle and take care of these show cattle. She sent us to Western 4-H camp in Washburn, North Dakota,
Mhm.
and we actually one year he was the junior champion showman, and I was the senior champion showman. So that was like then I think we told our mom we were too good that we didn't have to go back after that. So I think they should go, like, I think we went like 3 years in a row, and after that, we're like, Mom, I think we got this. We're just gonna go out in the world and see what else we can learn. So, and
We're
that is
done.
we made friendships from those times, back and starting 4-H, and several years later, these friends are still our friends. And when we went to NDSU to go to college, the people that we have known through 4-H, they were already there, so that made college all that better, all that more better experience, that we could possibly have. So I
Well,
don't know. I
thank
think
you so
that's the
much for
only that
joining us. that is a perfect answer. Happy National 4-H Month. And folks, we're going to be right back. We're going to wrap up with the weather and so forth. But Tamara Heins with North Dakota Pork Producers, thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us today.
You bet. Thanks for having me, and don't forget to put some pork on your fork this weekend.
Oh, see, I like that one
That's
too.
perfect.
That one's
I
good
like
too.
that. Okay. All right, folks, we'll be right back.
There's a party. Here's Bridgette in her blender. Glad she could make it.
I feel like that's my college years coming back.
It is.
So,
Well, it is Friday too.
It is Friday, and we are celebrating National 4-H Month as well as National FFA Convention this week. So, for those of you who are wondering, we talk a lot about the youth organizations across the states that we're reaching out to on the airwaves. You can also be of service to those 4-H groups right now. They're always looking for leaders. So if you are interested in being a club leader, talk to your local extension agent. Those are the folks that really help out in each county to make sure that 4-H reaches everywhere and active all the way down to the clover buds. Those are like kindergarten age up through the time that the kids are 20, 21 years old. There's so many things for them. And it's not just about agriculture. They have discussions and competitions in robotics. Tamara, our guest, mentioned the home economics part of it, the food processing, the sewing. That doesn't sound like it's a big deal, but those are skills we should all probably have. And 4-H is one way we can get them. So look into helping out with 4-H or getting your kids involved. I think you would greatly enjoy it. Certainly not regret it.
Mm-hmm. So, Bridgette, let's hit real quick. I know we got about a minute left here on what are they doing about the livestock losses with the weather catastrophes they've had in the southeastern part of the U.S.?
So with the Hurricane Helena, there's been a lot that's happened down there. And those folks have to remember to document their losses. So if you had livestock, if you had chicken barns, hog barns, et cetera, that lost power and you had a death loss, you have to make sure to provide the right documentation. The same thing happens with the wildfires out in western North Dakota. There's a livestock indemnity program, the LIP program. Make sure that you document purchases. You have to take photographs for death loss, and you have to take those into your farm service agency in order to make sure that the right paperwork goes to the right place, so that if you are going to be looking for coverage, you can document what you had and the correct measures can be taken. So there's a lot going on in a variety of areas of the country right now.
All right. Well, for Bridgette and myself, I want to thank everybody for joining us on Weather and Ag in Focus. Go have yourself a great weekend. Enjoy the mild weather. We do have some rain in the forecast and cooler weather as we head into next week. Don't go anywhere. The #1 show in the United States now. His ratings just keep going up and up. The Jay Thomas Show is coming up next.